The drivers who get stranded in an EV aren't the ones who ran out of charge in the middle of nowhere. They're the ones who planned the trip, checked the route, and still got it wrong because they didn't know what they didn't know. Here are the 7 mistakes that do it. Mistake number 1. Trusting the advertised range. This is the one that gets more first-time EV road trippers than anything else. And it's not because they weren't paying attention. It's because the number on the window sticker feels like a promise. It isn't. EPA range estimates are calculated under controlled, standardized conditions. Moderate temperatures, steady speeds, flat terrain. Real-world driving doesn't look anything like that. You're on the highway at 75 miles per hour with the AC running, the car loaded with luggage, and a headwind pushing back against you the whole way. In those conditions, the gap between the advertised range and what you actually get can be dramatic. A vehicle rated at 300 miles might return 220 in the real world on a summer road trip. That 80-mile difference isn't a flaw, it's just physics. But if your trip was planned around 300 miles between charges, now you're making an unplanned stop. The fix is straightforward. Plan around 75 to 80% of your EPA range as your working number. That gives you an honest buffer and keeps the math realistic from the start. Better to stop more often and arrive on time than push your luck and park yourself at the side of a highway with a single-digit range left. Mistake number 2. Arriving at chargers with almost no battery. There's a certain logic to stretching every mile out of a charge before you stop. You want to minimize stops, maximize driving time, and arrive at the charger with as little energy wasted as possible. The problem is that logic works perfectly until it doesn't. Arriving at a charging station with 1, 2, or 3% battery sounds like efficient planning. What it actually means is that you've eliminated every margin of error. If that charger is occupied, you wait. If it's offline, you're in serious trouble. If traffic rerouted you 5 miles off course to reach it, you might not have made it at all. EV charging infrastructure has improved enormously, but it's not flawless. Chargers go offline without warning. Busy stretches of highway on a holiday weekend can have every stall taken. Weather can knock systems out. A 15 to 20% arrival buffer is the standard recommendation for a reason. You almost never need it, but when you do, those few miles of cushion are the difference between a minor inconvenience and being stranded. Plan your charging stops with that buffer built in. It costs you almost nothing in actual driving time and gives you real options when something unexpected happens at the charger. Mistake number 3. Ignoring weather conditions. This is the mistake that surprises most people because the EV range impact from weather isn't something most drivers think to account for until they experience it firsthand. Temperature is one of the biggest variables affecting how far your EV will actually go. In cold weather, lithium-ion batteries operate less efficiently. The chemical reactions that generate power slow down, range drops, and your heating system, which draws directly from the battery rather than waste heat like a combustion engine, puts additional load on the pack. Some EV owners have reported losing 20 to 40% of their range on particularly cold days, depending on the vehicle and conditions. Heat brings its own problems. The battery thermal management system works harder to keep the pack in the right temperature range, drawing more energy. AC load adds to that. A route that's perfectly comfortable on a mild spring day may require an extra charging stop on a 100-degree afternoon in July. Wind is something most people never consider. Strong headwinds increase aerodynamic drag significantly, and aerodynamic drag is one of the biggest drains on efficiency at highway speeds. A 20-mile-per-hour headwind can reduce your range more than you'd expect. Before any long EV trip, check the forecast. If you're driving into cold temperatures, strong wind, or intense heat, adjust your charge stop planning accordingly. Add an extra buffer. Keep a backup charger location in mind. The car isn't going to warn you in advance. That part is on you. Mistake number 4. Not checking charger availability. This one costs more EV road trippers their trips than almost anything else on this list, and it's entirely preventable. A charger showing up on a map does not mean that charger is working. It means that the charger exists. Those are two different things. Charging infrastructure has grown fast, and maintenance has lagged behind in a lot of areas. Broken stalls, stalls stuck in error states, stalls that look occupied on the app but have been abandoned, stalls that are simply offline. These aren't rare expectations. They're common enough that relying on a map alone is a genuine risk. The habit that changes this completely is checking the real-time status before you commit to a stop. Apps like PlugShare are built around this. They show recent check-ins from other drivers, notes about whether specific stalls are working, and user-reported issues that don't always make it into official status systems. When you're planning a stop 80 miles down the road, spending 2 minutes on PlugShare to confirm recent activity there is basic trip insurance. The second habit is always knowing your backup. For every charging stop you plan, know the next closest option. If your primary stop is down or full, you shouldn't be pulling up a search with 8% battery and a blank screen. Have the backup charger already in your navigation. One closed charger shouldn't end your trip. It won't, as long as you plan for it. Before we go any further, hit that subscribe button. If you own an EV or you're thinking about getting one, this channel covers the real-world stuff that actually matters. Mistake number 5. Driving too fast. Highway speeds kill EV range faster than almost any other single variable, and most drivers don't fully realize how dramatic the effect is until they've watched their range estimate collapse somewhere between 75 and 80 miles per hour. Here's the physics. Aerodynamic drag doesn't increase linearly with speed. It increases with the square of speed. That means going from 65 miles per hour to 85 miles per hour doesn't cost you a little more energy, it costs you dramatically more. Some EVs lose 20 to 30% of their effective range just from that speed increase. An EV rated at 300 miles at 65 miles per hour might return 220 miles at 80 miles per hour. If you're driving at 85 and pushing into heavy headwind, you're looking at even less. You could be planning your stops around numbers that don't reflect what the car is actually doing. This doesn't mean you need to crawl down the highway. It means you need to know your vehicle. Understand roughly what your consumption looks like at different speeds. Use the energy efficiency display most modern EVs provide, and watch what happens when you back off 5 or 10 miles per hour on a long stretch. On a 400-mile road trip, dropping from 80 to 75 miles per hour might add 15 minutes to your drive time. It might also eliminate an entire charging stop. That's a trade most drivers are happy to make once they understand it's on the table. Speed matters more than most people expect. Build that into how you plan. Mistake number 6. Fast charging at the wrong time. Most EV drivers know that DC fast charging is the way to go on road trips. What fewer people know is that how and when you use fast charging matters as much as whether you use it. 2 specific habits create problems. The first is charging from low to 100% every stop. This feels efficient. Top it all the way off, go as far as possible before the next stop. The reality is that the charging curve in lithium-ion batteries isn't linear. From 20 to 80%, the charge rate is fast. From 80 to 100, it slows significantly to protect the cells. Sitting at a charger waiting for that last 20% often takes as long as charging from 20 to 80% did. You're sitting there for an extra 30 minutes to add range you may not actually need before the next stop. The more efficient strategy on a road trip is the 20 to 80 approach. Charge to 80, drive to the next stop, charge again to 80. You keep moving faster. You protect the battery from repeated high charge stress, and you spend less time standing next to a charging station. The second issue is charging immediately after a hard drive in hot weather. Fast charging generates heat. A battery that's already warm from a long highway run, combined with the heat from a high current charge, is a harder situation for the thermal management system to handle. If you have 20 or 30 minutes of flexibility, letting the car cool before plugging in makes a real difference to charging efficiency. Smart charging on a road trip isn't about topping off constantly. It's about moving efficiently and keeping the thermal load manageable. Mistake number 7. Having no backup plan. Everything on this list, range miscalculation, a dead charger, a weather event, a fast charging delay, is manageable when you have a backup plan. It becomes a crisis when you don't. The EV drivers who handle road trips without stress share one consistent habit. They always know what comes next. Not just the charger they're driving to, but the one after that. Not just the primary stop, but the backup if that stop is full or offline. That is not pessimism. It's just how good trip planning works. Before you leave, map your route with a dedicated EV trip planner. A better route planner is built specifically for this, and it accounts for your vehicle's real-world consumption, elevation changes, and charging network availability. Don't plan through a generic Maps app that doesn't understand battery range. Identify your charging stops in sequence and flag a backup location near each one. Know which networks are in the areas you're traveling through and download those apps in advance. Some chargers require a registered account to activate, and finding that out at 5% battery is not when you want to learn it. If you're crossing into a more rural area, check explicitly what coverage looks like. The gaps in the charging network are shrinking every year, but they're not gone. A 20-minute research session the night before your trip costs you nothing and covers you for almost every scenario. One closed charger should be an inconvenience, a small detour, a reason to take a longer lunch. It should not be the thing that ends your trip. EV road trips go wrong in specific predictable ways. That's actually good news. It means they're preventable. Trust your real-world range, not the sticker. Keep a buffer when you arrive at chargers. Adjust for the weather before you leave, not after it becomes a problem. Verify charger status in real time, and always know your backup. Watch your speed on the highway, charge to 80% and keep moving. Have a plan B for every stop. None of this is complicated. It's just the preparation that most people skip because it feels unnecessary before the first time something goes wrong. The drivers who take their EVs everywhere confidently, across states, through weather, through mountains, they don't have better cars, they have better habits. Drop a comment below. Have you run into any of these on a road trip? Or is there one you'd add to the list? And subscribe if you want content that actually helps you get more out of your EV, not just the basics you've heard 100 times.